getting put it in the live chat. Okay, still no audio at this time. Let's see what is going on. Oh no. We can hear you now. Okay, yes, it's thank you, Christian. And all right. So all right, I'll tell you what, let's say hello to everyone in the live chat. Yes, I can hear you. All right, so I'd just like to say hello to everybody in the live chat for stopping me from talking for the best part of an hour with no audio. Okay, so hello to Captain Shelby. Finally made it to a live. Captain Shelby, of course, was in the famous video where we had to go and rescue young Mr. Goose, the windsurfer. Hello to Boris in Florida. Great to have you on board. Oh, hello to Joyrider Worldwide. I believe that must be Joe, who is currently logged in as Joyrider Worldwide, but nice to have Joyrider Worldwide in the live chat. This is a new thing, in fact. Okay. All right, and hello to Christian in, I think, British Columbia, is it? And hello to Bobby Bruce. Okay, great to have a lot of the main players in the live chat. Okay, and we've got Lee on board as well. Mostly just comments saying either they can or cannot hear me at this time. All right, and I believe I'm thinking that must be Joe logged in as Joyrider Worldwide. Never know how to sign in to this thing. You are automatically signed in there, Joe, if that is Joe. Yeah, so by the way, if you did want to change your login, what you do is you go to, if you're watching on a, yes, I thought it was Joe T. Joe Tobin, of course, the organizer of the Hilton Head events, one of the main organizers there. Two big events coming to Hilton Head, September and October. We'll talk about those in a little while. But okay, first one. If you want to change your YouTube login, like which page you're logged into, like as a user of many with different IDs, you go to the picture, which would be in the top right of your browser window with your user logo thing in it. Click on there, and then you just go to switch account or change user. Click on there, and then you can log in as anyone, as anybody that you have existing. Right, I think actually after I've yeah, anyway, got rambling already. So Captain Shelby says Joyrider Worldwide is for Joes. Yes, it is for everyone who wants to upload some sweet footage. And if you saw the footage that went on to Joyrider Worldwide yesterday, it is pretty special. It's actually Mathis, who is my main contact at Forward Whip, and he is crashing a Nacra Carbon 20 in the best possible style. It is pretty sensational. All right, we have also got on board, we've got Charles on board. Great to have you with us, Charles. Nice. All right, so let's dive in to the first preloaded question. I'm rambling a little bit too hard so far today. So first preloaded question has come from Alessio, who says, why doesn't my Hobie Cat 16 go upright after capsizing? It doesn't go upright even with 3 people on board. Okay, this could be for a number of reasons. So let's do the quick one first. The quick reason why you are really struggling to right your capsized boat would be Let's get us a capsized boat here. We need some water. All right, there we go. That looks pretty capsized to me. And we need a mast. And this first reason why, and by the way, this is applicable to all types of catamaran. First reason why your capsized boat won't come upright is if you've got a leaking mast. So if there's water in your mast, you can add a significant amount of weight to the top of the mast. So even if it's only a small amount of water in the mast, like let's say 1 gallon of water, what's that, 2.5 liters, which would weigh, is this true? 2.5 liters would weigh 2.5 kilos. Is that true? So then that water would go to the top of the mast, and then the amount of leverage that 2.5 liters has got in the top of the mast is going to be significant compared to your leverage standing on the side of the boat, just here hanging out, bringing the boat upright, even with 3 people. And of course, if you've got, oh yeah, 1 litre. Thank you, Christian. 1 litre equals 1 kilogram. I thought so. Just thought I'd check. Yeah, so the likelihood, if you've got a leaking mast, of just having 2.5 kilograms of water in the mast is pretty unlikely. There's more likely to be 5 or more, which really is going to make it extremely difficult to bring your boat back upright. So that is number one. And that would, especially if your boat has been inverted and inverted for a, quite a period of time, with an older boat, especially, older masts are prone to leaking sometimes. And yeah, it really is going to hinder your ability to bring the boat back upright. Now, how would you know if there was water in the mast? I think you'd know that there's water in the mast by the fact that even with 3 people on the boat, you can't bring the boat back upright. But also, when you do eventually get the boat back upright, whether you have to wait to be blown back to shore or get assistance from a motorboat, if your mast does have a significant amount of water in it, you'd probably see water just leaking out of any of the fittings towards the bottom of the mast, because that's quite likely where the water got in. Okay, and what is the fix for, let's say you are suspicious of having water in your mast? Okay, so at the bottom of the mast, on a lot of boats, you actually have a pop rivet that doesn't appear to do anything near to the bottom. But if you do need to check if your mast is leaking, then the thing to do, and this is the same if you're going to be draining your mast, if you put one hole in the mast near to the bottom, so to scale, it wouldn't be not in the bottom foot of the mast, because a lot of masts will actually have foam in there with a plate, and that bottom section should in theory be sealed to stop water from getting in through the bottom end cap. So about 1 foot up the mast, we will drill a hole in the center front of the mast. Like, I would go 4.8 millimeters, and then a little bit higher up. So maybe, what would we go? I'm switching between metric and imperial, but we'll go 8 inches up the mast, drill a second hole, same size, And what that second hole is there to do is to allow the air to go into the mast to allow the water to come out. And you will know if there's a lot of water in the mast by how far the water shoots out of the mast. If it's coming like hitting the bridle wires, then that's pretty much a full mast. Then what we will do once the mast is empty of water is we're going to seal this top hole. So the way we would seal that would be we're going to use a pop rivet with a waterproof cap. And before we put it in, we're actually going to put a barrier paste on the mast. And this barrier paste is usually yellow. And what that prevents is this chemical reaction between the aluminium of the mast and the stainless steel or inox of the pop rivet. Then the pop rivet cap would basically look, we're going 3D drawing like this with a sealed bottom to it. So that's the pop rivet cap, which will go into the hole, and then the rivet itself, which would look like this, will go into here, and that is going to seal the hole. We could also, as well as the barrier paste, put a little bit of sealant in there as well, like Sikaflex is the go-to, and then we know that that hole is sealed. So how can we now check to see where else the mast might be leaking? What we could look at is around the other fittings. So we're going to have to either drop the mast or put the boat on its side, but around the other fittings, look for evidence of salty deposits where water might have been coming out, especially if your mast's been down for a while. Of course, water isn't going to go uphill and come out at the top, so that perhaps isn't going to be quite as relevant at the top of the mast unless your mast has been down. But what you can do is take a pump of some description or a compressor, puts around all of the fittings on the mast, like we're checking the same way that we check the holes to see where they're leaking, or the old bicycle inner tube technique. We're going to put soapy water around the all the fittings on the mast. Then it takes a surprisingly small amount of pumping to actually get pressure into the mast through there. The mast is going to be leaking. Now, this might be a controversial way of doing it. Like, one place where the mast might leak is at the hounds fitting. Can we remember what this looks like? Not exactly, but the hounds, which be about here, where the rigging attaches, would go to some sort of plate like this on the mast, and then that would actually be held in by a lot of rivets. So that is actually one of the most likely places where water might be getting into the mast, because there's so many rivets there. So if you see bubbles coming from one of those rivets, what you don't really want to take that fitting off the mast, clean it up, reseal it, re-rivet it. That's a big job. So what I might be inclined to do is to take the one rivet out where water seems to be coming, re-rivet that one, having sealed it. Of course, you won't get barrier paste in between the fitting if you're just taking one rivet out, but get some sealant in there and put the new rivet in, and then check it again, see if it's still leaking. And if it is still leaking, on top of the rivet, so that you're really sealing that rivet onto the mast. I don't know if anyone from the sites department would say that that's a bad idea, but I think that works pretty well. All right, so the mast. If there's water in the mast, Okay, I'm just going to jump into the live chat because I think there might have been on this topic before I continue to the next part of why can't I right my capsized boat. All right, Christian says, yes, that's why my cat wouldn't right. We've got Cole on board. Hi, Cole. For me, it was a gust that pushed me over, followed by basically no wind to help get it up. And at that point, a mast float with two lightweight dudes as crew made it slow process. Yeah. So it's a good point. The masthead float. Let's have, here's our masthead float. Yes, it does a great job in preventing the boat from going completely inverted, makes it a lot safer because if you're in the water like here, the boat inverts, that could be a bad day. Masthead float is going to stop that from happening. But the masthead float probably weighs a few kilos, which means if there is and then no wind to help, that is going to make it more difficult to bring the boat back upright, especially if you are on your own. So I would say if you are going sailing on your own and there is not any chance of assistance from a motor, or if you say, like, let's say you're sailing with a group of 3 catamarans all out together, light winds, and none of the boats, or 1 or 2 of the boats, are not single-handed, then of course we could be sailing along and we've got one boat capsized. Let's say this boat, that won't work. This boat is capsized. What somebody else can do is just sail past and sacrifice their crew to help the single-handed sailor, or if there's a double-handed team struggling to get the boat back upright on a light wind day, chuck your crew overboard to help bring the boat upright. But if it's windy, just do be aware that this boat is going to drift. So it is actually, as I've illustrated here, a better idea to drop your crew off on the leeward side so the crew can get on more easily. So there we go. All right. So yes. So, but what I would do if you were sailing alone with no other boats out, and there's always a slimmest chance, even in light wind, that you're going to capsize, have a capsize righting bag or some sort of device to help you. Because unless you are over 120 kilos for a Hobie 16, so for a bigger boat, it's going to require more weight. You're not going to be able to bring the boat back upright. Okay, so scrolling down through the live chat, Dave HI 108 says master with a wink. Don't know if that's true. Make sure writing line is routed correctly. Yet that is going to help as well. So what is a correctly routed writing line? If this is the Dolphin Striker, the very standard writing line route is for the writing line to go from the central bar of the Dolphin Striker over the hull, which is elevated, and then to the people who are pulling the boat upright. Now, as you would know, the shape of the hull or the depth of the hull isn't uniform all the way along its length. And if you want to get more leverage when you're bringing your boat back upright, get the writing line over the deepest part, let's say the hull. All right, Random in Seattle is on board. Hello, Random in Seattle. One trouble I've been having lately is I go to stand on the bow and so slowly comes from an edge, writing it and it rapidly capsize is like Random in Seattle says, it is necessary to get it pointing the right way. Okay, so sorry, I've just got to clean up a little bit. All right, so let's look at this boat on its side. Here we go. There is the boat actually on its side. So a person on the boat standing on the hull would look like that. And then the way the boat, how can we illustrate this? We're actually going to have to, oh no, we don't have to draw it. We're going to have a fairly short mast on this. The way the boat is sitting to the wind is going to have a major effect on your ability to bring it upright after the capsize. So quite a normal way, if you've capsized sideways, would be for the wind to be blowing onto the bottom of the trampoline like this. So if the wind's blowing onto the bottom of the trampoline like this, then you are basically, if you try bringing the boat upright from there and there is more, let's say more than 5 knots of wind, or yeah, more than 5 knots of wind, you are not going to be able to pull the boat upright against the wind. If you've got 3 people on the boat, like our example today, and the wind is really light, then maybe you would be able to bring it upright against the wind. But if the wind is strong enough to capsize properly, if it's a consistent wind, which would be, let's say, 15 knots, no chance. So yes, we need to bring the boat around into the wind. And sometimes it can be quite difficult to actually get the boat to come round. So the traditional method is, if we sink the bow, then in theory, we sink the bow, and then that means that's our pivot point. Wind is blowing here, and that means that the boat, in theory, is going to start pivoting round. And in theory, what it says in the books is that the boat will come round until it's pointing into the wind. Now, generally, if the boat started off with the wind blowing onto the bottom of the trampoline, going to the bow is generally reasonably successful, because it's all of the pressure from the wind is blowing the right way. So how do we get this to pivot? If it's a smaller hulled boat, like a Hobie 16, then it might only take like one person going to the bow to really sink that Formula 18. Then it might require the helm and the crew to go to the bow to sink it. And what it might need is actually one member of the team to actually drag themselves in the water, holding on to the bridle wires. And that can really help to make you basically act like a sea anchor, so that the boat will swing round. So if the wind has started off by blowing onto the bottom of the trampoline, it's that way round. Okay, and then when it is pointing into the wind, then we'd go back to our central position on the boat, having already got the righting line out, let the sails off, and then we can bring the boat upright. Okay, now if I'll go back, I'm going to move the wind this time instead of the boat. If the wind is blowing onto the top of the trampoline, then it can be more difficult to get it to bring it round, because if you sink the bow, the wind isn't only blowing on the trampoline, it's blowing on the sail as well. And what's more happen there is, even if you sink the bow, the whole boat just gets blown sideways. So how can we get around that? I think there's no easy way to do it, to be honest. What can help if it's blowing onto the top of the trampoline? First thing is make sure that your mainsail is loose. And this could be another reason why you can't get your boat upright. If the mainsail is under the water and it's not loose, then you're basically trying to pull a bag of water up when you're bringing the boat back upright. So make sure the mainsail is loose. I would strongly recommend on any boat that has a jib, especially, to don't let the traveller out any more than to the tow strap. I can come on to that shortly, but don't let the traveller out all of the way. I'm going to tell you why now, because if you let the traveller out all of the way, what can happen is when the boat comes upright, there's no resistance coming from the mainsail, and the boat can just bear away downwind, and you're holding on to the dolphin striker, like bouncing along, and it is really hard to actually get onto the boat. Whereas if you've got the main some pull in the mainsail, so the traveller isn't all the way out, then the leech of the mainsail, the back edge, is going to catch the wind and just bring the boat up into the wind a bit more, or prevent it from bearing away when you are back upright. What would you do if you, all right, we're going off on a tangent here, but what would you do if you've brought the boat upright, you're holding on to the dolphin striker, and oh my goodness, the boat is racing away and it doesn't feel like it's going to stop? I'm gonna try this actually. Do an R&D video, because this isn't something that I've tried. But thinking about it, a good thing to do, although it's a high commitment move, would be to grab hold. You might say this sounds like a terrible idea. Grab hold of the righting line, and maybe grab hold of the righting line with it hooked onto trapeze. That could be a bad idea. You could go underwater like a fish on a hook. But grab hold of the righting line, lower, basically, and allow yourself to go backwards to the back of the boat, because you need to be holding on, because if you're not holding on, you're going to be disappeared if the boat is shooting off. And then when you get far enough back, use a body part, whether it's your foot or anything, to push the rudders, to push the boat up into the wind. And then when the boat is slowed down sufficiently, let go of the righting line, get an arm over the back beam, get the rudders all the way across, and get onto the boat at the back there. But I will do a video on that shortly, just to see how effective or safe that method is. I've never actually tried it, but it seems, in theory, it might actually, if you're on that runaway train under the dolphin striker, that could be a possible solution. All right, I'd just like to say thanks very much to Cucks Oliver for the super sticker, keeping the Q&A ad free. I hope that we're doing okay so far today, and this isn't just rambling in many directions too much. But all right, so we still haven't addressed what we're going to do to turn the boat into the wind if we are wind onto the top of the trampoline. Yeah, so if we get in the water here like we did before, really drag here, it is going to turn a bit. And all we're looking for, if it's like this is when I find we'll get it round into the wind after quite a lot of persuasion. And then as soon as you come off the bow, because it's going to be more kind of like this, as soon as you come off the bow, then the boat gets blown back round to here. So again, making sure that the righting line is positioned before we start persuading the boat to come into the wind, then we'll go back and we'll pull the boat up slowly. So all we're looking to do is lift the mast out of the water. So we're really being gentle on the righting line, get the top of the mast out of the water. And what will happen there is as the sail catches, then the boat, if we pull it up slowly enough, will turn more into the wind. All right. So back into the live chat. Yeah, so random in Seattle, that is, I think the why is just because if the wind is blowing from this way, when we're getting it round, then the wind is blowing on. So if the wind's blowing onto the rig, that's actually going to help. So why? Right, I'm going to. Yeah, I haven't got an answer for that at this time. I'm just going to put it out there. There we go. Because there's a lot of live chat going on. Dave HI108 says there is a lot of pressure on the mast tip while turtled, while the boat is inverted. Yes, we've had this a lot here in Greece, actually. Some people fill the mast with foam to be sure of no leaks. Yeah, so the other thing we found, I don't know if there's any science in this, but if it's a really, really hot day, the mast is super hot. Yeah. Black mast, very hot. And if the boat capsizes and inverts, then the pressure difference and the heat, something to do with the heat, actually means it's going to suck water in more quickly. But when the boat is completely upside down, there is a tremendous amount of pressure at the top of the mast for water to go in. All right. Anything else in the live chat at this time? All right. Dave also says use the jib. Oh no, this is tacking. All right. Just seeing if there's anything else in the live chat about the capsizing. All right, we've got Dirk from Minnesota, USA. Nice to have you with us, Dirk. Dirk says, I tipped my Hobie 14 last weekend, had a very hard time writing it this time. Usually in the past, with a bit of help from the wind, I was able to write it. Okay. Right, so continuing with another, if the top hull, if this hull has got water inside, okay, I know it sounds pretty obvious, but if this hull's got water inside, this is our pivot point. So anything this side of the pivot point is working against us, bringing the boat back upright. So if that's got water in it, then that is also going to make it much more difficult to bring the boat back upright. So what do we do if we think, okay, there's water in the hull? Yeah, we're a little bit stuck, to be honest, because unless we've got a pole, a writing pole, a writing frame, or a writing bag, then yeah, we're up against it, or more weight. So more weight is going to do it eventually, but it's going to take quite a lot of doing. So there we go. I'm going to park that there, the capsize question. Water in the mast, water in the hulls, boat not pointing the right way, or if the mainsail or jib is cleated in the center, because that, or another one which we haven't talked about is if you've capsized with your spinnaker up, then you do need to drop your spinnaker before you can bring the boat back upright. Because like with the mainsail being cleated, if your spinnaker's up, it's like having a bag of water at the top of the mast, and that you're going to be fighting against. There we go. Thank you very much. If any of this information seems interesting or useful, in fact, a great way of letting me know that you think it's useful or interesting is to just hit the super sticker or super chat button and contribute to the upkeep of the Q&A, keeping the Q&A ad-free. Thank you very much. That was an advertising feature, which is keeping the Q&A ad-free. All right, back into the live chat. SA1510. Greetings from Helsinki. Yes, nice to have you with us. Got out for the first time with the Hobie 16. Tacking was difficult. All right, so if the tacking's difficult, the most, I would say, what is the single most likely reason for tacking being difficult? And I would say the reason is that you're not sailing close enough to the wind. So if you're sailing in this direction to the wind, then you're turning the boat up into the tack, but before you've got to the wind, to head to wind, your boat has run out of forwards motion, which means when you haven't got any forward motion, the rudders don't work. And when you get there, that's it. You're not going to turn anymore. Eventually, the wind is going to blow you backwards and you're going to end up on the same course that you were to start with. So what is the reason that the boat isn't pointing close enough to the wind? Pretty much 9 times out of 10, it's because you haven't got enough main sheet in. By bringing the main sheet in, even on a windy day, you're able to sail the boat much closer to the wind. So let's say, like in a light wind, it's much easier to bring the main sheet in and point the boat closer to the wind. So what we're looking to do is to sail as close to the wind as we possibly can, but so that we're still moving forwards with good grip on the rudders. So that we've got good steering. And having the main sheet in tight allows us to do that. And then what we're looking to do is, once we've sailed the boat closer to the wind, if you're sailing quite happily on a slightly lower course upwind, then before you go for the tack, just sheet in a little bit, turn up, but making sure your rudders are still working nicely, still going forwards nicely, and then only establish this course for like 2 boat lengths and then push the boat up into the wind. And as soon as you head to wind, if you've got a jib like on a 16 and the jib is backed, that means it's a done deal, success. As soon as you head to wind, let the main sheet off. Don't be in too much of a hurry to cross the boat. But as soon as you've let the main sheet off, that and the boat is still turning, which it will do if the jib is backed, that is your cue to move across the boat. And as you're moving across the boat, just really think about, am I keeping the rudders consistent? So they want to be at the same angle or straight as the boat comes through the wind, and then don't sheet in again until, again, you've got good grip or steering with the rudders. There we go. All right, coming down. All right, SA1510 says, an accidental jibe broke the tiller extension. Yes, it will do that. Because, of course, the tiller extension is between the main sheet on the Traveller and where it's going. So if you jibe accidentally, the main sheet is just going to go into the tiller extension with some force. How does one avoid the Traveller from attacking the tiller extension? All right, so this is good jibing technique. So we're going downwind. We're going to go for a jibe. We need a tiller extension. Here we are. Here's our tiller extension. So when we're going for the jibe, first thing we want to do is make sure that we're on a good angle, which is with the apparent wind coming straight across the boat. So that's our apparent wind there. This is the tiller extension, not the mainsail. Okay, this is the mainsail. Apparent wind coming straight across the boat. We're then going to go into the center of the boat, facing the back, paying attention to keeping our course consistent. And then once how do we know if our course is consistent when we're facing the back? Good question. If the boat starts slowing down, we'll go smaller scale. If the boat starts slowing down, it's because you've turned more downwind. If the boat starts speeding up, it's because you've turned more upwind. So just really focus, look over your shoulder, look at the telltales, the wind indicators, and make sure those are flying straight across the boat, because that is the angle that we want to start our jibe from. Once we're in that position, middle of the boat, before we turn, we're going to put the tiller extension onto the new side. So we're going to swing it round the back of the boat. One thing that can make it a bit easier, give you a bit more space, is before you actually move to go into the middle of the boat, bring your traveller in a little bit, like maybe to the tow strap, because that's the only thing we've got as reference. But that means you've got more space. And then other side of the main sheet. So when the boom comes across, the main sheet goes across, it's not going to hit your arm. It's not going to hit the tiller extension. There we go. Okay, but do check out one of the several videos on jibing on Joyrider TV for an actual demonstration of this, of course. All right, we got Scott dropping it in the slot, coming in from Oregon, USA. Nice to have you on board, Scott. Great stuff. All right, Hans is on board, coming in from Vasiliki, Lefkas, Greece, at the Vasiliki Kavadeus Beach Bar. Hope you're having a nice time, Hans. Very unusual weather here today. It was raining, in fact. Yeah, for a bit, and then quite a gusty wind. So not quite such champagne sailing conditions today. All right. Then continuing through the live chat. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, by the way. Oh, and thanks very much to Random in Seattle. Keeping the Q&A ad-free with the super sticker. Super sticker, incidentally, is located just next to your chat window. Nice. All right, just proceeding down. Dave says, okay, this is back to the capsize. I get the bows to start swimming to get the mast up, tip into the wind as soon as possible with sails uncleated. Otherwise, it will probably turtle. Thanks for that, Dave. All right, I'm going to stop. All right, continuing. Dirk says, use the lacing on the trampoline to work your... Oh, okay, good one, actually. If you're on that runaway train hanging on to the dolphin striker after a capsize, and if your boat has got a 3-piece trampoline, like on a Hobie 14, then what you can do is actually use your trampoline lacing to work your way towards the back of the boat so that you can then get hold of the rudders. That's a great tip. Thanks for that, Dirk. But on a boat with a 1-piece trampoline like an F18, unfortunately, you can't do that. So the righting line would be the only thing you've got to hang on to. All right, Cuxolly says, please push the like button, everyone. Yes, hit the like button if you could. That means that more people will have this video recommended to them later on. All right, Random in Seattle says, thanks. You described the situation perfectly. Thanks. All right, nice one there. All right, Charlie on board. We always meet up each year in Vasiliki, currently working to make Warner in Lesbos. All right, nice. Oh, Mark Warner, working for Mark Warner. Got you. That's probably auto correct there. Yes, that's nice to hear. Charlie has been coming out on holiday in Vasiliki Lefka's Greece for many years since he was yay high, and is now finally working as a sailing instructor in the Greek islands. Really pleased for you there, Charlie. Great stuff. Okay, we've got Johnny Hughes on board in Texas. Thanks for coming, Johnny. I'm competing in a beach regatta in August on the Gulf Coast. Any advice on launching through the surf? Yes, I just did it in on the Round om Texel in Holland, where yeah, it was quite an intimidating situation. I could say I don't sail in surf very right, let's just say ever. And because so many people ask me about how do we sail out through waves, I thought being in Holland, where we've got quite a decent bit of surf coming in, it would be the perfect opportunity to make a video on how to do that. And of course, why was it an intimidating situation? Number one, brand new boat on loan from Nacra. Don't break the boat. Yes, that always ups the stakes a little bit if you're not allowed to break the boat, which nobody wants to break the boat, of course. And number two, why was it an intimidating situation? Because there was probably about 200 people on the beach. Nobody had gone out sailing because of the waves, and loads of people on the beach watching. Yeah, for some reason, when there's people there watching in real time, it's worse than knowing that, like, even if 5,000 people watch the video, that's not as bad as people watching there in real time. And a lot of them are experts in sailing out through the surf. So I did ask a lot of people about what technique to use and what have you. So let's say we're launching from the beach here. And I did actually do check out the video on launching through the waves. I think I did it pretty well. So before we put the boat in the water, first thing to do is just watch the waves for a good 5 minutes and see if there is an area where the waves aren't breaking as frequently. So if the waves in an area aren't breaking as frequently, what that is likely to mean is that there's a channel of deeper water somewhere. And if we can get that channel of deeper water, if the waves are big, what is also, let's say we've got a channel of deeper water sort of here where the waves are not breaking as frequently, then what that's also going to mean is there's likely to be like some sort of current going outwards. And so if there's a current going outwards and the waves aren't breaking as frequently, that is the spot that we want to sail out through. Because what we're trying to avoid, a few things we're trying to avoid. The first thing we're trying to avoid is kind of pile driving our rudders into the bottom. Yeah. So, and that would happen when we're close into the beach. Second thing we're trying to avoid is having our boat here. Oh, this is a terrible drawing. Is our boat here with a wave breaking onto it. So those are two things we're really looking to avoid. So having looked out to sea, and if we have identified an area where the waves are breaking less frequently, we know that that is going to be the spot. Then we make sure everything on the boat is ready. So we've got the main sheet attached, and we've got the tiller extension on the right side of the boat. Definitely not dragging in the water, because if the boat gets pushed backwards, we're going to potentially put our tiller extension into the bottom and break something. And then make sure that both team members of the boat are ready. And then with what I learned the hard way the second time is have the rudders locked in the up position until you're in enough water. and you're going to sail out a little bit rudderless to start with. In fact, I did get both types of advice on this. Some people said, drop the rudders down on the beach, put the boat into the water, rudders are already gripping a bit, and then sail out like that. But other people said, just have the rudders locked up until you're out beyond the first few waves. So I think option 2 is better. And then to get the boat going, so we put the boat in the water, and straight away we're going to pull the jib in, which is going to keep the nose of the boat off the wind. And then we're going to jump onto the boat and we're going to start sailing out. And once we've got the boat going forwards, if we can get over that first wave. So one mistake I made on a subsequent launch was not getting on the boat early enough. I was waiting, had the boat in the water, didn't get on straight away. Get on straight away. Because if you're in the water just holding the boat's getting bashed around. Get on the boat, much easier. Get on the boat, use the jib and the mainsail to steer the boat. So traveller out, main sheet out, jib in tight. And then if you want to sail up into the wind a bit, pull the traveller in. If you want to bear away from the wind, let the traveller out. Once you're out in deep enough water, get the rudders down. Maybe just get the windward rudder down first if it's still looking a little bit precarious. And then just avoid the steepest waves, even if it means you've got to bear away and then go up there, but you're really trying to avoid the steepest waves. There we go. And then when you're coming back in to complete the story, where we're trying to position ourselves isn't here like surfing like a surfer would do on the face of the wave coming down. Because if there's what's called a beach break, where the waves like this are breaking straight onto the beach, then we're going to be in real trouble. So what we're trying to do instead is to come forwards a little bit and actually come in on the back of a wave, so that then that wave's going to go onto the beach. So we're just going to drive the boat up onto the beach, but on the back of the wave. So that's actually providing us with deeper water as we get on the beach. And then as soon as we touch down, we jump off the boat, grab the boat, pull it forwards a bit, get it into the wind, and then we've made it. All right, there we go. I'm going to park that one there. All right, continuing. All right, Dave says, this is a good point. If the wind is onshore and very light, use paddles to get off the beach. Yes, good point. All right, Joe Tobin has logged out of Joyrider Worldwide and into Joe Tobin. The Plum Crazy video in Hilton Head shows some good waves. Yeah, it pretty good. But I would say pretty good. And in fact, it might have been the waves that actually broke the shroud on that occasion. So yes, coming up in Hilton Head, South Carolina, USA, and the event, there's the Formula 18 Americas in September, which the week before that I'll be there doing some coaching. So if you want to come down and say hello, then do come down and say hello. If you want to get some coaching that week, then let me know and I will see what we can do the week before the Americas in Hilton Head, which is, I will be starting on September 12th with the coaching. And then possibly, definitely, picture this. It's the 1980s. Catamaran sailing is at its highest ever level of popularity. You go to the beach, there's a regatta going on. The beach is covered with a rainbow of different coloured sails. People wearing brightly coloured clothes and just hanging out, having a good time. There's music on the beach. Everybody looks absolutely ecstatic with what a good time they are having. Well, Joe Tobin and the Hilton Head, the sailors of Hilton Head, are bringing this vibe back. And this is the honest truth. The Hilton Head Regatta, which is towards the back end of October, is like going in a time machine back to the 80s when catamaran sailing was at its peak. And it really is the most fun catamaran sailing event on the catamaran sailing calendar. It's a beautiful place to sail, big sandy beach, great stretch of water, the nicest people, great vibe. And it is like serious racing, but everybody can get involved. Whether you've never raced before or if you're already an experienced racer, it's for everyone. And before the Hilton Head Regatta in October, I'm going to be running a 2-day race clinic. So if you haven't raced before, we can get you absolutely ready for competition. There we go. Okay. Cux Ollie says, and please use the Cunningham before starting in waves. Yes, I did forget in the video. I'd said put the Cunningham on before you go, and then I failed to put the Cunningham on before I went. All right. So I'm going to go on to the next preloaded question. And this one comes from Bonin Vision, who we are. Bonin Vision is in Japan. Yes, we are hitting the corners of the planet. And is running a small sailing experience out of a surf shop in Japan. Very nice. I'd like to come for a visit, if I may. I've only ever sailed Hobie 16s, but I'm looking for something with more capacity for taking more people out sailing. Would you recommend, here we go, the Nacra 570 or the Topcat K2X? The getaway carrying capacity is great, but the reduction in performance and weight are not ideal. I sometimes have to get the boat up the beach on my alone. Love to be able to take out 4 or 5 customers at once. Is the getaway the only beach cat that can do that? I would say for sailing with 4 people on board, the getaway certainly is at the front of that fleet of real big volume, loads of people. The getaway, you've got the benches on the side. So getaway, we've got the big benches on the side. Sorry, a bit of a rushed illustration. So more capacity on the benches. We've got a trampoline between the bows, more capacity. It is like, it really is the ultimate party boat, the getaway. So much volume and easy sailing, carrying capacity. But I completely feel you in that it is a heavy boat to bring out of the water alone. So what can we do? We can have a scheme. How can we get the boat out of the water alone? Well, when I actually had my one and only experience, and that was in Sweden, Declan actually had a really for it, which was on the beach where you're going to be pulling the boat in, is actually, depending on, of course, your situation, we had 2 perfectly spaced aluminium ladders, and I can't remember if it did, but yeah, 2 aluminium ladders, and the plastic skeg hulls of the getaway slid really easily onto those ladders, which made it really easy to get the boat out of the water. And it's quite a steep landing, and Declan was able to bring the boat out of the water alone. Nice. So that is a possible solution. The getaway is a good choice, but out of the 2, would you recommend the Nacra 570 or the Topcat K2X. I think they're two very similar boats. The 570 Nacra is bigger, and I would say it would carry, I would say perhaps not 5 people at one time, but I would say like regular size adults, let's say, which would be, let's say, total of 300 kilos. It's quite a lot. 300 kilos, I would say, is a happy place, like at the higher end for Nacra 570, whether it's either the Mark II or the Mark I. Topcat K2X slightly smaller, but I believe the hulls might have about the same amount of volume. So two very similar choices there. But the reason I like the Nacra 570 is the new Nacra leisure range, the fish is, and the attention to detail is the same level of detail that Nacra put into making the Nacra 17, the Olympic boat. So it really is a great boat. Option of either a performance sail or a leisure sail. So I think the Nacra 570 has got it going on, but for pure carrying capacity, the Getaway is leading the charge. Yeah, so there we go. That is where I'm going to park that one. Okay, so Scott in Oregon says, hear, hear, to Joe Tobin and the Hilton Head multi-hull regatta. Yes. Bobby Bruce says Hobie 21 is the king. Yeah. Yeah, that is a good point. For the king of party boats, the Hobie 21, whether it's the 21 SE or the Hobie 21 Sport Cruiser, massive carrying capacity. But would you be able to pull one of those out of the water on your own? Not a chance. I think they come in at about 220 kilograms for one of those boats. There you go. Oh, by the way, we have been going for over an hour now. So if anybody's feeling inclined to support the Q&A and to support Joyrider TV, then please do feel free to drop in a super sticker or super chat. And by the way, you may be thinking, Joe, I like your t-shirt. Yeah, this is actually, I'd have to say it's my favorite design that I've done. I actually designed the t-shirts myself. Everything to do with Joyrider. It's just me. So the website, the merchandise, the classroom series, everything, just me. And so if another great way of supporting Joyrider TV, get yourself, this is called the Tequila Sunset t-shirt, available in a number of different colors. And yeah, get yourself a t-shirt and support Joyrider TV. The t-shirts, by the way, are printed on every continent. Depending on where you are, everything's printed to order. So let's say you're in Australia, the t-shirt would be printed and shipped from Australia. So it's not like things are shipping from Europe to come to Australia, which, you know, I wouldn't go for that myself. All right. Bobby says the South Carolina Yacht Club for the parties. Oh, yes. Okay. So, and the Hobie 21, how many people does it take to get it out of the water? Bobby says 6 men and a baby. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Azor 1600 says, can you say a word about your outhaul? Sorry, outhaul. How do you like it? Could you, how do you like it to be on the boat? Yes. All right. So, how can we illustrate this? We need a boat of some description. Let's have, here's our boat with a mast. So, the outhaul is the line, the control that pulls the sail towards, I've lost my arrows, towards the back of the boom. So it pulls the sail backward in the bottom part of the sail. So we've got battens. So above the, like the outhaul's influence is going to be mostly this bottom part of the sail here. That's where the outhaul is really going to have a big effect. And then higher up the sail, it's going to have less effect. So beyond the first batten, the outhaul is going to stop having too much effect there. Now, the good thing with the outhaul is for most situations, you can set it once and then you can leave it. Because what we want to do with the outhaul, as a rule of thumb, is to have this bottom part of the sail slightly flatter than the rest of the sail. So what does that mean is in light winds, what we want to see is the difference between the boom and the bottom of the sail is just to have a slight curve in the bottom of the sail. This is for normal sailing, like round a course or something. So bottom of the sail, slight bit of curve in there. This is our straight boom. And that is what we're looking to do. So if you think of it like you could get a hand's width between the bottom of the sail and the boom in light winds. So in light winds, we're going to have our downhaul pulled on to the minimum. Okay, we're not going to go through downhaul settings. We've been through that many times in the previous weeks. So we've got our downhaul pulled on minimum, and we've got this hand's width between the boom and the bottom of the sail. Okay, so far? I hope so. All right, so as the wind increases, what are we going to do with our downhaul? We're going to be pulling the downhaul on harder. So as the wind increases, we're increasing the tension in the downhaul. And as we pull the downhaul on more, what that is actually doing is it is increasing the distance between the bottom of the sail and the back of the boom, which is automatically tightening the outhaul. So once we've set the outhaul once for the light winds, that's us done with the outhaul. So on my Tornado, my racing boat, all I have for my outhaul adjustment is one rope with 2 knots in it. And I hook the knot into the back of the boom because I know I'm never going to need to adjust it. So that is pretty much the name of the game with the outhaul. Now, one difference you might have seen is if I'm going for absolute speed on one of these, like down the mine shaft 2-sail reaches on this sort of course, then I'll have much more curve in the bottom of the sail because this is going to give us much more power on this sort of course. But for regular sailing, upwind, downwind, I would set it this much, and that is what we're looking for. All right, continuing. Okay, yeah. So as Or says, that is exactly what's going on with the outhaul there. So it was a little bit looser, or actually quite a bit looser than how I would have set the outhaul had I been sailing around an upwind and downwind course. So in that wind, with the downhaul pulled tight, the bottom of the sail would want to be completely in line with the boom. So stretched the same as the boom. Now, one word of warning with the outhaul is don't pull your outhaul on tight before putting on the downhaul. So what happens if we do that? We could damage the sail. So if we pull the outhaul on tight before pulling on the downhaul, what happens is the outhaul actually lifts the boom and we get a loose bit in the back of the mainsail. This is an exaggeration because the boom is being lifted by the outhaul. If we then pull on the downhaul, that's going to tighten it even more. What's going to happen when we pull on the main sheet? Loads of power there. We could actually rip the sail about here, which would be really disappointing. All right. So I'm just going to finish off with Azor's question here. And I've seen your older videos. I really like the fact that you are using bottom of the sail. You started to make it deeper. How do you like it? Yes, I like it very much, if that's what you mean. Yeah, so making the bottom of the sail deeper for getting that higher speed on a reaching course. But for upwind, certainly flatter. For downwind, 2 sails, but not going down the mine shaft, then ideally, if we're really looking to maximize our performance there, we'd let the downhaul off, even if it was a windy day, and we'd get that curve back into the bottom of the sail. All right, so we have got in the live chat Zarek, who is here in Vasiliki currently, who says, that's Big Boy Adventures New Zealand, by the way. Do you have any Joyrider singlets available in Vasiliki? Cheers from Zarek. Yeah, I think so, but don't. Yeah, if you ask the guys on the beach tomorrow, they will be able to steer you in the right direction. I'm currently out of size large. I think I've got medium, small, and extra large. Thank you very much. All right. So last preloaded question, which kind of question, kind of statement, and this is going into the video that came out yesterday where I was comparing the performance of the Hobie 16 single-handed with and without the jib. If you haven't seen it yet, do check it out. I think it is a wonderful video to watch. 20 minutes of good times. Just drive it like you stole it around Vasiliki Bay. So NSC Viper 16 says, with the search for the elusive 25 knots plus, would shifting your weight slightly forwards help? I understand the reason for being locked in at the back to save the pitch pole, but it must slow you down somewhat with the arse dragging. Fine line to dance for sure. Yeah, so a few people asked this actually in the comments from the video. So yes, you will have seen that when I'm going for a speed run, I definitely like to get locked in. Locked in right at the back, because in that position, back foot under the rudder stock, front foot on the corner of the trampoline, or if it was a different type of boat, maybe up against the back beam, you really have got a lot of resistance from moving forwards. Back foot has protection against getting knocked off the back of the boat by waves. And yes, I completely agree that some of the time, like when not in the biggest gust, the trim of the boat is suboptimal. So the bow is going to be lifted. Now, why is it that with the bow lifted, I don't jump forwards? It's because I'm locked in and I'm just waiting for the gust. And then when the gust comes, I'm easing main sheet, bearing away. And at that point, the bow comes down. And it's at that point, that is when I'm expecting to get the biggest speed. And I really want to, when I'm going for speed, to be absolutely secure. But yes, I do agree. I could be more reactive on the boat. And when the gust hits, moving backwards. But sometimes these gusts are so big that perhaps if I wasn't in position before the gust hit, I might not have quite such good control. So especially in the really high winds, which granted the video from yesterday, maybe it wasn't quite so windy. It was probably 25 knots in the gusts. But in the really high winds, what I'm trying to do is make the boat and myself as stable as possible, as easy to control as possible, and so that I can really work the boat as hard as I possibly can without having to worry about whether a wave is going to hit my back foot and knock me off the boat, or if I'm going to stumble forwards or something. Yeah, so that is the why. But would it be quicker if I came forwards a bit? I think for the really big speeds, there should be the wind to justify, to warrant being right at the back of the boat. Now, how is it that, for example, on the what I am calling the world record, which was when I was with One Shoe Phil back then, that was like 3 years ago now. How was it that I was able to go that much faster? It's because the wind was so strong. I think it must have been up to 30 knots, that the gusts were long enough. So like a lot on an average day here, the gusts, the really strong gusts, are a little bit shorter, which doesn't give the boat time to get up to speed. Like it gives the boat time to get up to 23, 24 knots, but to go faster, we need that gust to be longer in duration. How do we get a gust that's longer in duration? For there to be stronger wind generally. So start of September is the best time for that here in Vasiliki. But this year I'm going to be away, so unfortunately everything that I can to go faster. All right. So Black Sheep says, wouldn't more hull in the water increase friction and create drag? That's a very good point. Like if we had less boat in the water, would it reduce drag? Possibly. That's interesting theory, because, you know, strictly speaking, the catamaran is displacement, which means the more waterline length we put in the water, the higher potential top speed it is. But my theory with why is the Hobie 16 hull fast is because it does somehow plane, like when the boat is on its side, flying a hull slightly, then we've got this flat side which the boat is planing on. Yeah, it's not planing like a windsurf board, which is on the water like this, but it's pushing this way into the water. So does it even care which way is up or down if that whole side of the boat is being pushed against the water? Is it still planing? I think yes, because it doesn't matter that that is not down, that is down on a windsack, or that we're lifting the bow. Yes, possibly, for the reason that we risk dragging too much rudder through the water. So if we're dragging our rudder stocks through the water, I think that is going to slow us down. There we go. All right, I'm going to park it there. Thanks very much, everybody, for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Keep it safe, and get on the speed stick. Upload your videos to Joyrider Worldwide. And I'll see you soon with some more on Joyrider TV. Thank you very much. Thank you.